Humaira Mayat until 5 p.m. today, the 26th of January 2021. Do remember that this segment is streaming live on our website, salammedia.com/listen-live, and on our Facebook page, facebook.com/salammedia. Remember to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Instagram at salammedia_on-air and on Twitter at salammedia. All comments and questions can be sent to 061 766 0355 via WhatsApp. Now, as of late, Morocco and Algeria have had a contentious relationship, one which has been exacerbated by an array of factors, some of which include the normalization of ties between Morocco and Israel and the issue of Western Sahara and the Sahrawi people. While both the populations of Morocco and Algeria have vehemently opposed the normalization deal between Morocco and Israel, what is done cannot be undone, regardless of how many pickets and sit-ins are held by citizens of either country. Moreover, for years now, Morocco and Algeria have had lengthy disputes over the region of Western Sahara, with Morocco claiming sovereignty and Algeria favoring the rule of the Sahrawi people. Some argue that now, as tensions are at an all-time high in the region, it is time for reconciliation between Morocco and Algeria. Today, we are joined by Dr. Abderrahim Chalfaouat, a writer and researcher in Moroccan affairs and a professor at the Hassan II University in Casablanca. He's a media expert and holds a Master of Arts in Moroccan American Studies and a PhD in Advertising and Communication. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon and welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, and I'm glad to be talking to you and to your listeners and to your audiences.
Okay, so for years, these two North African countries have had a relationship fraught with disagreement and tension. Can you begin by providing us with a brief overview of the conflict between Morocco and Algeria?
Thank you very much for the question. Historically speaking, I would say that we can make a long story short by dividing the thing into two big parts. The first one is pre-colonial and the second is post-colonial. The pre-colonial period, which is longer, much longer than the post-colonial, was marked by a lot of cooperation, mutual respect, even intermarriages. The independence movements during the French colonization in North Africa cooperated a lot. So animosity and the struggle, not just over the Sahara, but before that over borders, started in the post-colonial era. And the first conflict between Morocco and Algeria happened in 1963. That is to say, much before the onset of the Sahara problem. In 1963, the two countries had the sand war over the borders. And this is a big problem that lasts up till today. And then in 1975, the Sahara problem started with the withdrawal of the Spanish forces in the Sahara, and then the Polisario started claiming independence or claiming separatism from Morocco, while Morocco still sticks to the same approach of having the Sahara as part of it, as it was before 1975. And then a ceasefire was reached in 1991, and up till today the conflict is still ongoing. We can speak here about three key factors that demarcate the problem. Namely, first of all, the absence of clear designation of borders between Morocco and Algeria. Second is the arrival of the Cold War, because the support that the Polisario receives from Algeria has much to do with the Cold War and the discourse of the Cold War and the self-determination that started back then. And the third one is the Sahara affair. And then, of course, without speaking about these three, and to put these three on the table, I don't think that the problem is going to be solved in the short run.
Mm-hmm. And then Joe Biden has just entered into office as the president of the United States. Given the normalization deal between Morocco and Israel, which was mediated by America, do you imagine that Morocco will foster closer ties with the United States? And if so, how do you envision these to be fostered, and how will these affect Morocco's relationship with Algeria?
I think that Morocco now, after the recognition of its sovereignty over the Sahara by the now we can say the U.S. President Donald Trump, I mean, that's a considerable step that Morocco will not be ready to forsake freely or easily. And as a result, I guess that Morocco will try to see what possibilities for getting more support from the current Joe Biden administration. Nevertheless, what we need to take into account is that Algeria too will try to reach out to the U.S. Administration, and as a result, unfortunately, we or at least I expect to have a sort of a race in U.S. Congress and administration corridors. Both countries, Morocco and Algeria, will engage in a stiff of sponsoring and giving money to U.S. Politicians, both in Congress and in the administration. And I would describe that as a race to the bottom. Because both countries now are facing a lot of problems, and I'm not sure they have enough money to do that, or they are politically stable enough, or economically stable enough, or have money enough to do that. I'm not sure that they do. And so, by the same token, I don't think that the Biden administration is going to change the course of the agreement achieved between Morocco and the U.S. administration, because it is a general agreement that includes a number of things. It's not just normalization; it's normalization, but also a military cooperation in the south. Possibly the U.S. command may and the Africa may move to the south of Morocco. May, we are not sure of that yet. And there is going to be some economic cooperation. The U.S. also needs a Moroccan cooperation when it comes to the struggle between the strategic struggle between the U.S. and China and Russia. And so I don't think that the course of the agreement is going to be reversed, neither for Morocco nor for the U.S. And then Algeria may also engage in that lobbying war or struggle at the expense of local cooperation. And that's why I still think that cooperation at the regional level and at the local level between the two countries is the best option for both, given their political, economic, strategic struggle challenges and situation today.
Okay, and it is clear that things are rather tense between these two North African states. So why is it that you believe that now is the time for reconciliation between Morocco and Algeria?
Mainly, I guess that engaging in that lobbying effort, and also possibly engaging in a war, as the recent developments demonstrated. After the Gergerat intervention by Moroccan forces, and then recently there were some rumors about some missile attack by the Polisario militias on the same Gergerat buffer zone. So tension now is more of a waste of a lot of effort, of a lot of strategic time that both countries need, given their current situation. Politically, both countries have problems. Economically, both countries have problems. I would even say that war is against the will of history today. The world is reconciling if we if we can learn from some European experiences, of some Asian experiences. Morocco and Algeria have never waged direct war against one another, as it was the case, for example, between Britain and France. Morocco and Algeria have never invaded one another, as it was the case, for example, between China and Japan. Nevertheless, those countries are reconciling and thriving together. Morocco and Algeria can learn a lot from African countries, in which we, in Africa, in South Africa, in a good number of African countries, we can see that a lot of reconciliation to the benefit of the region. Now, especially with the pandemic, we can see that both countries are suffering a lot, economically speaking. And then when are they going to get money to continue sponsoring that direct or indirect war? And then possibly a common ground between the two is that both are claiming at least that they need some solution for the Sahrawi people. For Morocco, Sahrawi people are part of Morocco. They are still Moroccans. Morocco still believes that they are Moroccans, and they can have the solution of the autonomy plan, which is being autonomous within the Moroccan unity. And then Algeria wants self-determination. That's one sort of self-determination, but it is still within the Moroccan territory and the Moroccan unity. However, when we support separatism, it means that we should also support separatism within Algeria and in other countries. And we have never seen benefits from separatism. Separatism usually brings with it chaos, problems, and ongoing conflicts, and we may opt for separatism within separatism. If we can learn from the Spanish experience, then we can see that autonomy plans can be good options on the table.
Thank you so much for joining us today and for talking to us about why now is the time for reconciliation between Morocco and Algeria.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That was Dr. Abderrahim Chalfaouat, writer and researcher in Moroccan affairs and professor at the Hassan II University in Casablanca, talking to us about how now more than ever, Morocco and Algeria must reach a point of reconciliation. And that brings us to the end of this afternoon's show. Remember that this segment can be found on our Facebook and Twitter pages. From myself, Humaira Mayat, and the team at Salam Media, thank you for tuning in. Until next week, Tuesday, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon.